Daniel had always lived a quiet and predictable life on the research station, orbiting the calm blue planet called Lurana. He woke up early every day, fixed whatever was broken, helped anyone who asked, and then returned to his small cabin to read, rest, or simply watch the stars. He was not famous, not special, and definitely not someone who expected the universe to notice him. He liked his peace, and he liked the feeling of building things with his hands. Machines listened to him better than people did, and he found comfort in that silent understanding. The station was known for being peaceful. Scientists came and went. Traders visited for supplies, and diplomats passed through on their way to more important places. It was not a location where grand stories usually began. But the day the diplomatic transport ship arrived, something unusual happened. Something that would change Daniel's life forever. The transport ship belonged to the Valorians, a powerful alien race known for discipline, warrior training, and extremely strict traditions. Most humans found them intimidating. Not because they were violent, but because they showed almost no emotion. Their faces were calm even during crisis, and their voices rarely changed tone. They believed feelings were a distraction, and they carried themselves with a seriousness that made many humans nervous. Daniel had met only one Valorian before in his entire life, and it had not been a long conversation. So when he heard that an important Valorian representative was coming on board, he did not think it had anything to do with him. He continued fixing the docking bay light circuit, unaware that a pair of curious eyes was already watching him. The moment Leora, the Valorian envoy, stepped off her ship, she felt something she had never felt before. Her people had a word for it. Soul resonance. A strange internal pull that appeared rarely and without explanation. It did not happen for everyone. Some lived their entire lives without ever feeling it. For Leora, the sensation was strong enough to make her pause in the middle of the docking corridor. She looked around, trying to understand what was happening, and then her gaze fell on Daniel. He was kneeling near a panel with tools scattered beside him, his sleeves rolled up and his hair slightly messy. He had a calm, focused expression as he tightened wires and checked connections. Nothing about him was extraordinary at first glance, but Leora felt as if the air around him carried a different energy. It made her chest feel strangely warm, and she did not understand the reason. She watched him longer than she intended. No Valorian spent this much time observing a stranger, let alone a human, but she could not make herself look away. Something inside her whispered that she had found something important, someone important. Daniel noticed a quiet presence behind him and looked up. He expected to see a crew member or a trader, but instead, he saw an alien woman with silver markings on her face, dark, braided hair, and eyes that looked like polished crystal. She carried herself with calm authority, but her expression softened when their eyes met. "Can I help you?" Daniel asked politely, standing up. Leora hesitated. Valorians did not usually hesitate. "I wished to observe." Daniel blinked, confused. "Observe what?" "Your work," she said simply. "You handle tools differently from others I have seen." Daniel laughed softly, the sound warm and relaxed. "I didn't think anyone cared how I fixed these old circuits." "I care," she said without emotion, but the sincerity was clear. Daniel felt awkward, unsure why an important envoy wanted to watch him repair wires. But she seemed calm, not threatening, and completely serious. So he continued working while she stood nearby like a silent guardian. She asked questions about the machines, how they worked, how he knew which part needed fixing, and how humans learned this kind of skill. Daniel answered patiently, and the conversation flowed more easily than he expected. Later that day, the station experienced a sudden gravity malfunction. One moment everything was normal, and the next moment people were floating slightly above the floor. Lights flickered, alarms beeped, and visitors panicked. Daniel, however, knew exactly what to do. He pushed himself toward the nearest handrail, grabbed it with steady hands, and shouted instructions to help people stay grounded. Most visitors struggled to stay calm, but Leora watched Daniel with sharp focus. His voice, though not loud, carried confidence. He guided everyone, including confused aliens, toward safety. In zero gravity, one wrong move could send someone drifting into dangerous areas, yet Daniel moved with careful precision. When a frightened child lost grip and floated upward, Daniel pushed off the wall and caught him gently, making sure he didn't hit anything sharp. He secured the boy to a support ring and comforted him until his parents reached him. Leora saw this and felt her chest tighten again. She did not understand why his actions affected her so much. During the chaos, Leora herself lost balance and drifted toward a turning cable reel. Before she collided with it, Daniel grabbed her arm firmly and pulled her toward him so she wouldn't get hurt. She held his arm tightly, still not used to zero gravity. "Are you okay?" he asked. Yes," she answered, but her voice sounded different, softer, almost warm. For a moment, they floated close to each other, weightless and silent. Daniel could feel her steady breath, and Leora could feel the calmness in his grip. It was a strange, almost peaceful moment in the middle of chaos. Once gravity was restored, Daniel helped her stand upright. Leora did not release his arm immediately. She kept looking at him as if she were trying to read something hidden deep inside him. "Thank you, Daniel," she said. "You're welcome," he replied, surprised that she knew his name. "I heard someone say it," she explained. "I wish to remember it." Throughout the rest of the day, Leora found herself thinking about him more than the diplomatic mission she was supposed to prepare for. She replayed every moment. The way he held the frightened child. The way he moved through danger without hesitation. The way he reached for her when she was drifting helplessly. Valorians admired bravery, but Daniel's bravery was quietly gentle. It did not come from pride or training, it came from kindness. Her people believed that strong bonds were not chosen, they were discovered. And she felt she had discovered something rare. The next day, Leora walked through the station more slowly, hoping to see Daniel again without making it obvious. She tried to convince herself she was simply observing human behavior for her cultural studies, but deep inside she knew it was more than that. Daniel, on the other hand, did not realize how deeply he had affected her. He thought she had simply been curious, or maybe she appreciated how he handled the malfunction. He didn't know that her people rarely formed emotional connections, and when they did, it meant everything. When Leora found him in the cafeteria repairing a broken dispenser, she approached with quiet steps. He greeted her with a smile that made her feel unexpectedly warm inside. She asked if she could join him, and he agreed without hesitation. They talked about simple things at first: food, tools, human stories, alien customs. Leora listened to him closely, fascinated by how open and honest humans could be. Daniel found her curiosity refreshing. She didn't judge him or interrupt him. She simply listened, as if every word he said carried important meaning. By the end of the day, Daniel realized something surprising. He enjoyed talking to her. Her calm presence felt peaceful, not intimidating. She saw him not just as a repair worker, but as someone worth knowing. That feeling was new to him. For Leora, the connection grew stronger. Every small act of kindness Daniel showed made her admire him more. Every soft laugh he shared made her feel something she had never felt before. And every time she looked into his eyes, she felt that same strange warmth she experienced the moment she first saw him. Valorians trusted logic, but Leora trusted the feeling she could not explain. She believed the universe showed her this human man for a reason. She did not yet know what the reason was, but she intended to find out. And without realizing it, Daniel had already stepped into her heart, something no Valorian had ever allowed a human to do. Leora had always believed she understood the universe with clear logic. Her people trained from childhood to separate emotion from decision, to follow duty before desire. and to never let personal feelings interfere with their mission. Yet, after only a few days on the human station, she found herself thinking about Daniel more than she thought about her diplomatic work. It confused her, but instead of pushing the feeling away, she followed it, curious and quietly hopeful. Daniel, meanwhile, noticed that every time he turned around recently, Leora seemed to be somewhere nearby. She didn't interfere with his work, but she watched with an intensity that made him wonder if she was studying something important. He didn't know how to interpret her interest. He wasn't used to attention, especially from someone who represented a powerful alien people. Still, he found himself smiling whenever she appeared. On the fourth morning after the gravity malfunction, Leora approached Daniel while he worked in the maintenance hallway. He was fixing a coolant pressure unit, one of the station's more annoying systems. It hissed and complained every time someone opened it. When he saw Leora standing a few feet away, he straightened up and wiped his hands on a cloth. "You're up early today," he said. "I wish to see you," she replied without hesitation. Daniel blinked. Valorians never spoke so openly. "Oh, well, I'm glad. Is everything okay?" Yes," she said, stepping closer. "I have questions." Daniel chuckled. "You always have questions." "This one is important," she said, her voice softer than usual. He nodded, curious. "Ask anything." She looked like she was choosing her words carefully. "Daniel, how do humans decide who they will bond with? How do you choose someone for life partnership?" Daniel almost dropped his tool. That was not the kind of question he expected at all. He cleared his throat and tried to answer without sounding confused. "Well, humans don't choose instantly. We get to know someone slowly. We spend time together. We understand each other's feelings. And if both people care for each other, they may decide to build a life together." End quote. Leora listened closely, her expression serious. "So, the choice comes from shared understanding?" "Yes," Daniel said. She lowered her eyes, thinking deeply. "I trust you." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. "Well, I'm glad you do. You're easy to trust, too." The compliment made something warm spark inside Leora's chest. Her people rarely gave or received affection, so hearing Daniel's gentle words felt like stepping into sunlight after a long winter. Leora studied his face carefully, trying to match his expressions with the emotions she sensed from him. Humans were like open books compared to Valorians. Their faces showed everything: curiosity, fear, amusement, kindness. Daniel's face showed something she could not name yet, but she felt drawn to it. "Daniel," she said again, "may I speak with you privately later today?" "Of course," he said. "Everything okay?" "Yes. I only wish for honest answers, and I do not wish others to overhear." He nodded slowly, unsure what she was planning. That evening, she asked him to meet her in a small communication observation room. It was quiet, with a clear view of a cluster of bright stars through the large window. Daniel arrived on time, and Leora was already there, standing with her hands folded behind her back. She seemed tense, which was unusual for her. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "Of course," he said gently. "Tell me what's on your mind." She turned to face him fully. Her eyes glowed faintly under the soft light. "Daniel, I must ask something that may sound strange to a human." "No. I'll try my best to understand," he promised. She took a step closer. "My people have a concept called soul resonance. It means a strong inner pull toward another being. It is rare and respected. It is believed to guide one to the person who will be important for their life's journey." Daniel felt his heart beat faster. "Okay. When I first saw you," she continued, "I felt that resonance. I felt it strongly. I thought it would fade, but each day it grows." Daniel swallowed, unsure how to respond yet. She continued speaking, her voice steady, but full of emotion she usually hid. "I admire your kindness, your patience, and the way you help others without expecting anything. I have seen how you think, how you act, how you speak, with honesty and humility. These things mean a great deal to my people, and they mean a great deal to me." Daniel listened silently, stunned. Leora took another step until she stood right in front of him. She looked up into his eyes with complete seriousness. "Daniel, what must I do to marry you?" The question hit Daniel so suddenly that he lost his breath for a moment. His mind raced. Had he heard her correctly? The quiet alien envoy, with her calm voice and warrior posture, was asking him, a simple engineer, what she must do to marry him. Leora, I don't think you understand," he said carefully. "Humans don't decide things like that so quickly." She nodded. "I understand humans hesitate, but I do not wish to force. I only ask, what is required?" "Required?" Daniel repeated softly. "Yes," she said. "If there is a ritual, I will do it. If there are tasks, I will complete them. If I must speak to your elders, I will. If I must follow human traditions, I will study them. I only wish to know the path." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. He felt overwhelmed, but not in a bad way. He had never imagined someone seeing him as valuable enough to ask for something so serious. He had lived a simple life, unchanged for years. And now, this incredible alien woman was offering her trust, her respect, and something much deeper. "Leora, I'm honored," he said sincerely. "Really, I am. But choosing a partner is not about tasks or rituals. Humans choose someone because they feel something inside, something strong and real." She tilted her head slightly. "Do you feel something when you are with me?" The question was gentle but powerful. Daniel let out a slow breath. "Yes," he finally admitted. "I do. You make me feel seen, and I like being around you." Leora's eyes brightened. "Then perhaps your feelings match my resonance." Daniel smiled shyly. "Maybe they do." She stepped even closer, as if she wanted to stand where his heartbeat could reach her. "Daniel, I will not rush you, but I wish to know if you will allow me to stay close, so that we may continue learning each other." He nodded slowly. "I'd like that." Just then, the station doors slid open. A pair of human technicians walked by, whispering and staring. News spread fast. And by the next morning, nearly the entire station knew that a Valorian envoy had confessed interest in a human engineer. Some laughed in disbelief, some shrugged, some whispered dramatic theories. But Daniel ignored it, and Leora paid no attention. She cared only about his words. Later that day, while they walked through the observation hall, Leora asked him more questions. She wanted to understand human songs, human stories, human laughter. She wanted to understand what made his people form families filled with warmth and trust. Daniel explained everything in simple, honest words, and she listened with a concentration that made him smile. She told him about Valorian bonding traditions. Her people believed loyalty was sacred, promises were eternal, and choosing a partner was the highest honor. Daniel felt humbled when she said she believed he was worthy of such a bond. At one point, Leora paused and looked directly at him. "Daniel, I will respect your pace, but I will not hide my intentions. I wish a future where our paths are one." Daniel's heart beat hard in his chest. He didn't know what the future held, and he didn't want to make promises he wasn't ready for. But he also knew he did not want her to walk away. He reached out and gently took her hand, a simple human gesture. Leora froze in surprise, then slowly closed her fingers around his. For Valorians, physical touch meant trust. And Daniel, offering his hand, was equal to a quiet vow. They walked like that through the station, two very different beings connected by something neither fully understood yet. But both felt the same truth. Something powerful had begun, and neither of them wanted it to end. The morning after, Leora confessed her feelings. The entire station buzzed with quiet whispers. Humans were not used to Valorians showing personal emotion, and certainly not this much interest in one person. Daniel tried to ignore the attention, but every time he walked through a hallway, someone glanced at him, smiled knowingly, or whispered to a friend. He felt embarrassed. Yet a part of him was strangely proud. He had never been the center of anything before, and now, an extraordinary alien woman had chosen him for something as serious as bonding. But not everyone was pleased. Leora's people, the Valorian High Council, received a report that their envoy had formed an emotional attachment with a human. They found this alarming. Valorians believed bonds must be strong, strategic, and culturally aligned. To them, humans were unpredictable and too emotional. They worried Leora would lose focus, weaken her discipline, or even make decisions that went against her diplomatic duty. So early in the morning, while Daniel worked quietly in the engine room, Leora received an urgent communication. The High Council demanded she return home immediately for emotional recalibration. The words were cold and formal. They did not ask, they ordered. Leora stood still after reading the message, her fingers tightening against the tablet. She had always obeyed her people without question, but for the first time in her life, she felt resistance. She felt her own heart pulling in a different direction, toward a future she had not planned. She pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the almost painful pressure of the soul resonance inside her. She walked to find Daniel, needing to tell him before she made any choice. She found him kneeling beside a power conduit, repairing a small voltage leak. He looked up when he sensed her presence, smiling softly as if seeing her brightened his entire day. That simple smile made her chest ache with new emotions. "Daniel, I must speak with you," she said, her voice lower than usual. He stood slowly. "What's wrong?" "My people have summoned me back," she said. "They believe my emotions have changed. They believe I am compromised." Daniel frowned. "Compromised? Because you care about someone?" "To them, it is dangerous," she replied. "A Valorian warrior is expected to place duty above all things." Daniel wiped his hands on a cloth and stepped closer. "Leora, do you want to go back?" She looked away, struggling with her answer. "My whole life, I have followed their direction. But for the first time, I do not feel their order is my path." Daniel could hear the conflict in her voice. He gently touched her arm, a gesture that Valorians considered deeply respectful. She nodded, appreciating how he always approached her thoughts with patience rather than pressure. They sat together in a quiet corner of the engine room. The machines hummed softly around them, giving the space a gentle rhythm. Leora took a deep breath. "Daniel, my feelings are real. I feel drawn to you in a way I have never felt toward anyone. But if I stay, my people may accuse me of betraying their customs." Daniel listened, unsure if he had the right to ask her to stay. "I don't want to influence your choice in the wrong way," he said carefully. "Your culture is important. Your people are important." "They are," she agreed. "But so are you." Her voice trembled slightly. Daniel had never heard her sound so vulnerable. "What do you want?" he asked softly. "I want to remain by your side," she said, "to learn what this connection means. But I do not know if I am allowed." Daniel took her hand gently. "You're allowed if you allow it," he said. "You're allowed to choose your own life." His words struck her deeply. Valorians were raised to think of the collective before themselves. The idea of choosing her own path felt both terrifying and liberating. Before she could respond, the communication speakers crackled. "Envoy Leora, your transport will depart in 2 hours. You must prepare for departure." Daniel's heart sank. He could feel her hand tighten around his. "I will meet them," she said, "but I will speak my truth." Daniel nodded, though sadness tugged at his chest. He didn't know what she would choose, and he feared losing her before he had even learned what they could become. Leora asked him to walk with her to the observation deck before she left. The deck was quiet at this hour, with only the soft glow of distant planets lighting the room. The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky. She stood before the window, her reflection mingling with the soft starlight. Daniel watched her, knowing this moment mattered more than anything else that had happened since she arrived. "I want to show you something," she said, turning to him. "It is a Valorian promise gesture. We only use it when we speak from the deepest truth of our hearts." Daniel nodded, curious and nervous. She placed her hand over his heart, her palm warm against his chest. "This means, I give my trust." Then she placed his hand over her own heart, letting him feel the steady, controlled beat beneath her armor-like clothing. "This means, I accept your truth." Daniel's breath caught. The gesture was simple, yet profound. "Daniel," she said softly, "I do not know what the future holds, but if you wish it, I will choose the path that leads back to you." Daniel stepped closer, his voice shaking slightly. For Leora, those words were equal to a vow. She felt peace settle inside her heart, calming the storm of doubt. But their moment was interrupted by the sound of heavy steps. A group of Valorian honor guards entered the deck to escort her to the transport. They bowed respectfully, but spoke with rigid authority. "Envoy Leora, please come with us. Time is limited." Leora straightened, preparing to follow. Daniel felt a sting of fear. He didn't want her to walk away. "Will you come back?" he asked quietly. She turned to him, her eyes deep and certain. "If my will is respected, I will return." Daniel nodded, even though worry filled him. She reached out one last time and gently touched his hand. "Wait for my message." Then she walked away with the guards, leaving Daniel standing alone in the quiet deck. The next 2 days felt unbearably long for Daniel. He worked, but his mind drifted to Leora. He replayed every conversation, every gesture, every moment they shared. The station felt emptier without her calm presence following him through hallways. He feared the worst. What if her people forced her into emotional suppression? What if they denied her choice? What if she never returned? On the 3rd day, while he repaired a damaged antenna, his communicator beeped. He opened it quickly, hoping for a maintenance alert, but it was not a maintenance alert. It was a private message. A Valorian symbol glowed on the screen. His heart pounded as he opened it. The message was simple. "I have made my choice. I return to the station tomorrow. My path is with you." Daniel sat down right where he was, overwhelmed by relief and joy. He read the message again, just to make sure it was real. The next afternoon, a small Valorian shuttle arrived. There were no guards, no council members, only Leora, standing calmly as the doors opened. She stepped out, her posture proud, but her eyes full of warmth when she saw him waiting. Daniel walked toward her, unable to hide his smile. "You came back. I chose my life," she said. "And I chose you." He felt something warm bloom inside him. "Does this mean—" She took his hand gently. "It means I will stay. I will learn human ways. I will grow with you. And perhaps one day, we will decide together what our bond will become." Daniel squeezed her hand softly. "I'd like that." As they walked side by side through the station, people watched quietly. Some smiled, some whispered. But Daniel and Leora didn't care. Their steps were steady, their connection strong, and their hearts open to whatever came next. Leora had defied tradition, chosen her own future, and followed the strange and powerful resonance that guided her. Daniel had opened his life to someone from another world and found himself changed in ways he never expected. And together, they took the first steps toward a destiny that neither human nor alien culture had ever imagined. A future built on trust, courage, and the quiet strength of two hearts, choosing each other across the stars.